Woke up, tech talk, news flash, AI rolling in future in a dash. Digital dreams, cold and safe. We got the vision, never out of sync. AI, rising to the sky. Digital world, we reaching high, not centralized.
Yeah, don't quit our day jobs. Welcome back. We're here for episode 5.
I can't believe we've already done 5 episodes.
Where's the time gone?
It's disappeared. That's a month worth of us chatting with each other.
It's the end of July.
I see you more than my wife and kids now.
I see you more than my wife and your kids.
My wife and my kids.
Your wife and my kids.
I hope so.
Your wife and my kids is worse. Sorry. No. Shout outs to your fam. They're awesome. We love those guys. And we'll have to have them on the show at some point.
Well, one day. Yeah. Just little Lana.
Yeah.
Just a chat.
Lana's corner, and she can share her opinions on AI.
I'll just get AI to do it.
Oh, we could do 11 Labs like we did AI Mark and Chris. They're not making an appearance for this one. We didn't prepare for that one. But there's a lot more people I'm finding out that are using 11 Labs actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's fantastic. There's folks that I was speaking to yesterday, and they use like the digital avatars, and they have like a clone of their, them, so speaking and stuff, but the voice is actually through 11 Labs. So it's this combination of things. It's the AI marketplace, the platforms out there. It's wonderful, really.
I've shown the audio you created of me to so many people, and it's like so many didn't realize how accurate and how good quality the audio from that tool comes out now. Like they've always just assumed like you can always tell, you could like whenever they hear things, there's usually that sort of roboticness to a lot of things, but now that's gone.
See, for me with my voice one, I can tell, but then other people are like, oh my God, it's really you. But like there's little tells and stuff because I haven't said enough. Because it depends on the training set. Like it needs a minute of data or so.
Yeah.
But if there's words or pronunciations of syllables that I haven't said, it will have to guess to that. And sometimes it guesses American or overly English, not Australian. But
I didn't want to say your accent.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, when I was like living in London, like I was, when Aussies
Hello.
come around. Hello.
You sound like you're from London.
Let's go to work. When you hang around Aussies and stuff, the accent comes out more.
Yep.
I do wonder if like with language, it's a language model. Like if you, when you talk to it more, starts to mimic you. I think we'll see some stuff like that. But in any case, the AI futures are here. Or at least that's what Ethan Mollick was talking about and stuff. We'll dive into an article there. But before we dive in, why don't we, can you tell me a bit about what have you been up to this week?
Oh, this week has been. Oh, we've got some interesting webinars that are coming up, all about specifically AI.
Okay.
How you can apply it in your day-to-day workflows, depending on what type of role you have. And we'll go through some interesting ways of integrating new tools and understanding new tools into organizations and businesses. So that's been a big focus for us this week.
Love it.
And a few bits of client work specifically around AI as well.
Really?
Working for. Actually, I now realize I probably can't say anything. We're under NDA for that stuff. But And even in our own business, we're addressing some AI capabilities, a lot actually around voice and meetings and trying to close in a bit of a gap where a lot of existing tools currently aren't hitting that particular market.
I hear what you mean. Like there's a lot of, and maybe you're getting at this, but there's a lot of knowledge people are realizing that. So before the advent of AI, we're like, okay, we just go about and doing our thing and stuff. And like, I have this meeting, I take notes. I didn't take notes. I missed it. I have to go back through notes. I put stuff in Google Docs, blah, 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 whatever you were using to organize your knowledge. And AI comes along and it's like, wow, look at this magical box. And then it does all these things. Then we realize that, it doesn't do this. And here's how you have to tackle the hallucinations and inaccuracies.
Exactly.
But another big thing that people are seeing is that, hang on a second, we don't have this information in here, or we've got this information, but it's a bit ambiguous. Like they're realizing their documentation because when they ask the AI, they don't quite get the right answer. And then it's not just like the incorrect answers or whatever, but the missing information. And we're realizing that there's so much that is just not recorded. We don't tape ourselves. We don't do, just the conversations that we're having and stuff, or even like Teams meetings and stuff, that we should record them. And like people are realizing the missing information there. I think it's wonderful because it'll really kickstart the information age. This was like the key to it. Like until we had this tool, it was like, well, whatever, like we'll just miss out on it. So it's interesting.
And even the application of roles. So it might be a tool that has, and this talks to the fact that that information might not exist, but one like this feature set may work really well for someone in some particular role. Let's just say product, for example, that you follow a bunch of procedures and roles and do certain things. Those procedures and roles are different to someone who might be in sales, and therefore the application of that tool suddenly shifts. Even though it may hit 80% of it, that 20% is super important.
Absolutely.
So how do we close that gap for everything else? And that's what we're kind of exploring.
Nuance.
How do we break that gap?
Is really good. I agree.
But how? What have you been doing? What's your way? Like?
Oh, apart from just like recovering from being crowd struck, I heard it was like, I think, what did we say in the last episode? I mean, the last episode was only like a few days ago because it was delayed till Sunday, folks. Like we normally do this on like a Thursday. So it feels weird doing it now. Like we've had such a short gap. Anyways, back to normal is good. But
well, I mean, the good thing about it is I could copy lots of notes from our last one because we kind of shortened things a little bit intentionally just because it was felt rushed. So.
People did like the online one. So, I mean, as much as it's good in person and stuff, just because we had the cartoon cutout, like the comic book style cutouts.
Yes.
That was really good. So I don't know how we do that with this.
I could probably apply it again. Like just like close the gap, particularly when we do the split screen.
It's on brand, right?
Good.
So
I'll make it happen.
So people had comments about that, which is really good. The shorts are getting out there, although they're auto shorts. So like the short video cutouts from this, we're using Opus to do that. We'll have to take a look at some of that stuff because it's like come up with stuff where people are looking at it and the comment was like, what are you guys talking about? Because it's taking it out of context. Anyway, all good there.
It's missing the element. Yeah, it's the context wasn't there. It's also, if you like social media, having a bit of background in social marketing as well, you want to make sure you're starting with the hook, and the videos that the AI tends to punch out misses the hook. It just does the whole story. Yeah. And people don't have an attention span for like 2-3 minutes worth of watching, right? To get what the story is about. So they come in with this initial 1 minute of
hallucinations. What are they?
Yeah, and everyone's like, what the hell are they talking about? Is hallucinations. Strawberry? What is strawberry?
Yeah. Don't you like strawberries? Anyway, so apart from that, I've been really busy this week with a couple of projects in the blockchain space. We're finishing up something in the real world asset tokenization space, which includes a lot of blockchain stuff has been like not pretend, but like proof of concept. And you need that to showcase what's possible. And now we've got some stuff where it's actually real. There's something where there's hundreds of thousands of things being created, or technically there's hundreds of thousands of on chain, hundreds of thousands of wallets that are being created for a real world thing that is being brought to blockchain. I'll talk more about that another time. Apart from that, we've upgraded Psych. So we're now using, it's super exciting. It's funny because even just a few seconds difference, and let me just show you here, like, oops, that's another screen there. Let's go back to that. So, folks, this is behind the scenes.
Bring it up, Jamie. Here.
Bring it up there, Mark. So here is a dream that I've got. No, that's not the right dream. I want to take that out. I want to go to the Psych description because here, this description is all about Psych. It's got its features. You can expand on that just for people that might not be watching. I'm in the dream section of Psych where I've got various post-it notes. It used to be that reading all of this, it might take a few seconds when you ask a query on that.
Yeah.
A few more seconds than it does now. And now it almost comes out like we waited 1 second there and it just starts spitting out things straight away. And even reading documents. I was explaining to a client the other day, and we only just put this in, where I was like, okay, well, because it's reading documents, it's running RAG, retrieval augmented generation. It's going to take a few more seconds and as I'm explaining it, it's already running it and it's completed the query. So
it was one of the one of the things I kept bringing up. I'm like, the only way you're going to get biggest cut through is you need to reduce the time to load. And so this significantly gets you ahead of a lot of other tools that are in the same space, which is awesome.
Oh, exactly. I mean, if anyone is using like the newer kind of language models or like older language models, upgrade to the new ones because there is better services coming out there. And another point to this is that the cost is lower, between like 10 to 20 times lower. So, it is.
Why is that? Why is the cost so significantly different given the newer model?
Sam, and
usually when you upgrade to the newer model, it's more pricey.
Typically, but
Humans
when we went to GPT 3.5, yeah, when you upgrade to a new human, typically the second child is more costly. I'm joking, like Lana is not going to be upgraded if she'll be cloned.
The AI.
No, we love kids both.
AI daughter is more expensive.
Yeah, exactly. But what I was going to say, the whole upgrade stuff, we typically used to more expensive, sure. 3.5, going from GPT 3.5 to 4, and then 4 to 4 Turbo, things did get cheaper, and you got more reasoning power, and you got more, not necessarily speed, but mind you, because the older model, 3.5 versus 4, 3.5 was faster, but 4 had more reasoning and stuff like that.
More computational.
And right now, we've got 4 Turbo, and then now it's Omni, and there is still 3.5. 3.5 is like your baseline that you use for mundane tasks, right? But what's ended up happening is, and it's faster, what will end up happening is that 4 Omni, the latest, has a mini model. That mini model is supposed to replace 3.5. It's smaller, it's a lot faster, and it's crazy how they're doing it. But the whole point of this is that they want, well, Sam, I think, has been on record as saying that Sam Altman does not want, what are you laughing about?
I just said it's smaller and a lot faster. Everything a person would not want in a real relationship.
No, but sometimes smaller is better. It's what you do with it. It's what you do with your AI model, folks. Welcome to the adult show. But the interesting thing is that you want, he doesn't want tokens and costs to be an issue. He wants that to not be a barrier, basically, and it has been. When things have been really expensive, and sometimes what you're doing, imagine that you're doing something really complex and it costs you like $5 to do that because it's bouncing between all these documents, it's looking up so many things. It can get expensive, but making it cheaper, just like mobile phone plans, where maybe you even have a plan where it's unlimited. I think we're going to get to that. So this is really good. Omni was one, but there's other models out there that we'll talk about in a little bit. But this was, show and tell. This is like the most exciting thing because it just unlocks so much.
This is really awesome.
So
it's very exciting.
We'll have the offers for users, like anyone that wants to sign up. We'll give them a 3 month trial. Hit us up, folks. It's right there, and we're going to be doing more stuff together with you guys to bring to market. So.
I've got a question. So when you went through this journey of getting into this platform, so I'm going to take a step back out of the AI more into the business and development, because this is kind of what we're doing and exploring. Is that MVP validation stage. Did you go through a lot of that initial, or did you just go headstrong into, let's just build this thing?
Like all great entrepreneurs, diving headfirst in without seeing how deep the water is has been a thing. No, we got validation from the market because we had clients. We were not going to build something. We were just very happy. In our group, I was one of the first ones over at Not Centralized that was using ChatGPT, and the other boys, they wondered about it and stuff. The other staff were looking at it and how is this working? And then we started getting gigs doing training, as in, hey, can you come in and train us on how to use it? If we see you post about it, can you, teach us? And I was teaching people privacy and, the good etiquette for when you're using these public kind of models, even if it is your own data. But then it was we want to use this, but we can't because of the privacy issue. That was the first thing that we tackled. And thankfully, Microsoft had their model that stays in Australia because they've got a copy of OpenAI's models. From that, when we were building, it was directly with a client. So we were getting direct feedback and validation as we're doing it.
Fantastic.
Which is, not everyone gets to do that. It's rare. Sometimes you just have a great idea and you want to bring it to market. But we would have tried to validate as soon as we could, right? If we went from the cold start, we were a bit more warmer. But even then, with some others in different industries, even with finance, we didn't get, even though we're from the financial market space, we started with healthcare and we started with ESG and we started with legal. We didn't go into finance until more recently. And so there was a lot of validation directly, and we're lucky that we've got a network that we were able to tap into. So I guess we would have been following best practices as much as I want to go YOLO and dive headfirst in. It was a mix of that, but a lot of iteration.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that we're looking at now with ours. I hinted at, I want to give everything away until we're confident that it's something that we can start to roll out into the market. But it's that initial going through that MVP where we're validating right now, is it possible to do what we want to do? Can we take these existing tools or even just tweaking some of the things that that we have in hand? I'm trying to be really subtle and beat around the bush, right? And then we integrate that with in a real scenario, and can we tick that box? Can we go, yeah, cool, this is possible for this one little piece of story, and therefore can we then scale it out?
You understand this quite well. You guys at the Digital Village and even just your own work. The whole kind of like that concept of Figma-ing something, that
Yes.
it looks good and it's clickable and you can do things as a prototype.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of concept that we should think about when it comes to building solutions for our clients, right? Either with existing or like made up.
I would take it a step back. It's not even about looking good necessarily, but does it fit in with a journey that someone is going through? So if you have an instance of someone who is doing something, there's a bunch of steps that they go through to do something. And then can you integrate some kind of solution into that story, into that journey that person is completing? And can you make that experience better?
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing so we understand the journey.
Ooh, okay.
Because of our experience and our customers' experiences in the market. And we can really rapidly then, okay, cool, this is kind of what the tools journey needs to be like.
Yep.
And now we're going, okay, cool, can we take that prototype? Can we actually apply it in a real scenario? And that's what we're testing right now.
I like it.
Which is so we're going through the sort of real traditional MVP rapidly. We got 4 weeks. We're doing it in 4 weeks. We're really shoeboxing this.
Okay.
And by the end of 4 weeks, we need to have a definitive yes or no of is this possible for us to do?
And it's going to be in the App Store. That's great.
From there, let's go.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good way to do things, right? And I don't see enough businesses. It's almost like that sandbox prototype Google time, setting aside a bit of time to just test this out.
Yep.
A lot of times people, because they don't purposely make that time, and I get it, but you need to do that. Otherwise you just get stuck and others will be able to outcompete you.
Yep.
Great if you've got the money, but if you don't,
the biggest
you have
issue
to find a way to make that time.
The biggest issue I see with that is I see a lot of businesses, they go headfirst into the tech, or entrepreneurs into the tech. So they start building something without understanding or considering the experience. I don't want to say the UX in total, because you don't have to design things out. You don't have to like map it out. You don't have to have every single screen shaped. It's mainly about understanding the journey and then the application of your solution into the journey to be able to validate something. And you can do that visually, or you can do that with tech. And AI, my God, shortcuts that process significantly. Yeah, that's it.
To the sky.
And we'll talk about some tools in a moment as we go through this today's session around how things that are coming out into market that are really helping with that overall experience. But that if you dive headfirst into tech, you are shoestringing yourself.
Yeah.
You're
putting yourself in a box.
You're putting yourself in a box. You're not understanding 100% what it is you're developing. You're like you end up doing things that are unnecessary and therefore taking longer to.
I just think of a scenario where you go to someone like that is doing the complete opposite of what we're recommending, and then you're asking them, okay, so have you tried to understand the problem before you've done the tech? And they go, the problem?
Yeah, but this is just a cool idea. It's like,
yeah, but a CEO said AI and stuff. Like, that's, like, I get it in one way. Like, flip side of that is that, there's limited, not all businesses have full 100% kind of view. That's why you have management layers and stuff like that. But it is very easy to just go, oh, well, let's see what AI does and stuff there. And then it gets misinterpreted to, we need to do AI. And it's like, no, that's not what I said. Yeah. It's like that in that Silicon Valley, like Gavin Belson, the CEO of the Hooli, the fake company, leaves. And he's like, he says, like, he's actually had some breakfast stuff. And he's like, oh, the bear is, like, there's a bear with honey in it, like a plastic bear. And he tells one of his assistants, the bear is sticky with honey. And then they interpret that to mean something about a product. And so they form two factions, like one that thinks it means this, one that thinks it means that. In any way,
turns out it actually was a bear.
It turns out it actually was a honey bear. Like, it was actually food related. But can I dive into possible futures of AI? Yeah. So we follow along with a guy named Ethan Mollick. He is a teacher of many things. He's got a great book out called Co-Intelligence. I highly recommend reading that if you're in the bookstores or downloading it, off Audible, etc. But he had an article on his blog, and he talks about a few things there. Significant debate is out there about the future trajectory of AI. Some experts believe it's exponential growth. Others think that we've reached our peak and it will be slow. Either or, I think we're going to definitely improve. One thing that he does mention, and we just kind of talk about it then, is that organizations are not adequately planning for the potential impacts of continued AI improvements. And what I mean is that, they're just thinking about things, how we do things now. How does AI work into that? Rather than if we were to completely overhaul, how could we rethink about our processes if AI was at the center? And another thing that was quite interesting is that he says that there's a lack of comprehensive, what he calls like a I get it, right? Non-technical documentation. So for current AI systems, and this leads to misunderstandings about capabilities. We know there's a lot of misunderstandings, like the whole counting strawberries, counting R's in the letter strawberries, and people not, and we're going to get a short on this again that will just be misinterpreted, but like counting, like doing math. There you go, folks. I got it early. Doing math is not what these models are good at, and they have to do function calling or whatnot, but just people knowing that. There should be this non-technical documentation that just teaches people. And I know people are trying to educate, and you guys are too, but we're just saying that it's important.
It's 100% important. And as you hinted at, that's exactly what we're touching on a webinar. And that's not an intentional sneaky plug there. It's a literal observation in the market. And the way I look at it is like there's sort of 4 facets of it. It's understanding what you need it for. Like, so what are the things that you're doing that can have improved the experience upon to help fast track your thing?
Yep.
The second one is then understanding how the capabilities, or understanding how those tools then fit into your work and what they're capable of doing.
Okay.
And like, so exactly what you touched on is mathematics, for example. Your ChatGPTs, your for your metas, your the tools that are all coming out, we'll touch on that momentarily. They're LLMs. Their whole purpose is language strategy, as you could break it down to. They look for pattern recognition. They're not mathematical tools, and they need to call something else to get that mathematical results. And even when they call something else, they're using their language model to generate Python, which could be wrong, to then do that solution. And it's getting more accurate, and there are tools that are coming out. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is then risk. Ooh. So similar to what Psych is trying to solve, it's the risk against your data, understanding the risk against your results, understanding how to make sure you're checking and validating and security and all those types of things that bring risk, which can also be a risk to the business, risk to the culture of your organization, risk to the processes and work that you do, risk to how you're perceived by your customers and clients as well.
Internal and external.
Exactly right.
And number 4 is then how to utilize them, more than understanding the capability, but understand how to utilize them. And that's how do you avoid hallucination. So what are the terminology I'm hating in the market right now, which is prompt engineering. So it's how do you prompt the LLMs properly to get the most accurate results, and how do you then validate those results? And they're the sort of 4 key things to understand the application of LLM or to AI within your business, within your life, workflows, etc. And my mind was like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, I am better than an LLM because I can count. But I think it would do well at that kind of stuff. But it's interesting what you mentioned there, because on the prompt engineering side, for example, like there's many a debate I'm seeing a debate. I don't know about others, but like where I hear people talking about prompt engineering, and then others question, well, shouldn't the AI just give you what the best prompt is? And I think it's a mix of both. We don't stop people from making bread, artisanal, handcrafted sourdough that we all did during COVID. But we don't stop people from doing that because we've got automation in the bread making process, right?
Yep.
It's choice. And I think that there's going to be some people that will just want to handcraft their prompt, and some people that will just go, actually, I want the AI to tell me, and I'm going to learn from what it shows me as like best practice. Like even seeing things, the underlying, this is interesting, the underlying custom prompts that when you ask a query, people don't realize this. Like, why does Claude sound a little bit this way versus ChatGPT sounding that way versus others? They've got custom instructions, like a page or whatever it is, of how they're supposed to take your query and then answer that to their model. And that is something you can't change. You can kind of play around with it. They were revealed in many ways. Claude, it seems a little bit friendlier. Sometimes when you ask it a question, it doesn't just go off and do it. It'll actually ask you a few follow-up questions to clarify. Like I was doing coding stuff with it, and it was giving me, okay, there seems to be an error there. Can you try this code and tell me the results? I'm like, what? What the heck? It's asked, because I would just normally do that with ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly.
It would go, here's a fix, try this. No, but this one, it goes, do this first. We'll do an interim step first, and we'll go back and forth. Now, that happens because it's got the custom instructions. But anyway, I was digressing from the prompt engineering side. I think all of this is education.
There's a good point, though, because and they are getting smarter doing that. There are tools that you can now ask for appropriate prompts. There are, Claude, as you highlighted, even ChatGPT, are now giving you multiple responses based on assumptions that
you're
it's
like
made.
This or that one.
You're like, yeah, exactly right. But like, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily want it to, I want it to clarify. I wouldn't necessarily want to go, hey, should you ask you should ask the question in this way, because then you're removing it away from its intent of it trying to be this conversational tool. Like if you want it to give you the answer, just go to Google, search things like why are you in an LLM?
Well, yeah, potentially and stuff. And the other thing is that I think what you just said there with conversational, that touches on a point where some things you definitely need it as conversational, like it's AI agents, it's bots that sit on your website, or even just internal stuff. There's a new starter and you've got data in a room that they can like talk to. But sometimes it's not conversational AI you need like workflow type AI. So whether you're having agents that you're giving instructions to and you don't actually need to talk to them, or it's just like you've got and this is where the dreams thing comes in. It's for ideation. Like I don't need something going back and like, yeah, I can see a conversational bot helping there, but we're using that a lot more for like, okay, I just had this meeting with Chris. I'll put these ideas in. Let me look at all my old ideas. Does this crossover? Okay, I run the AI to synthesize everything, and I'm just keeping these post-it notes in something that is powered by AI rather than Google Docs. So there's different types of usage to your point earlier before. And I think people understanding that along with the risk and how these things work is going to be massively important. And so, yeah, we're very happy to contribute to the stuff that you guys are doing there. So we'll be talking more about that on the show soon, I'm sure.
Well, I think and you could relate it almost to if you're having a conversation with a person. Yeah. Right. And how many times have you had a conversation with someone, if you said something and that person has completely misunderstood the question
all the time
or the story and do you expect that person to be like, oh, did you actually mean this when you ask him that question? You just expect the person to understand it and they go away and do it and they do it wrong.
Yeah, I'll have 5 thanks, Chris.
Yeah. So why would an LLM know that what you're asking it is wrong or right or should be said in a different way to get the best response? Yeah. It's like, especially when all of its data comes from our actions and our content that we're sharing, it doesn't have that ability to do that realistically. It does what you tell it to do or what ask of it.
Based on the context it gives the highest probability answer. I did wonder about that, whether you can ask it to give me the lowest probability answer.
You probably could. Well, the thing is, and this is the next part I was going to say, is you can go, is there a better way to ask this? Or
you change the temperature. You get it to be bit more outlandish and stuff.
Exactly right.
And give
me the most racist, incorrect, rude response you can.
Just another weekend at Chris's.
ChatGPT will not give you racial responses. You're a very nice bot.
Yeah, exactly. You're very nice. But I think it's really interesting seeing articles like that. Just going back to Ethan Mollick, definitely following the things that he sees and shares, because it gets a lot of follows. And I think people are also, here's the thing, like why I think it's interesting to follow folks like that, the mini celebrities in the space, because they'll also get sent stuff and be able to try things out before others potentially. So I think it is important to check out. And then I had
definitely just enough for follow-up note. Definitely read his book if anyone out there wants to do it. It's a very powerful read.
Or get the AI to read it too.
Or get the AI to summarize it. Yeah, for exactly right.
Yeah, we'll do a deal with Ethan to just have it as part of Psych, and you can just talk to Ethan while he's in there. But anyway, I digress. The interesting thing, another interesting thing I saw was, and I'll share the link to this, but it's a new channel that I've started watching where they're doing very, what I would call practical takes on AI. And I like it because, the thing, I think it's called NeetCode.io. And I haven't watched his other videos, but in this one, it really struck out to me because whilst he might be a bit critiquey of AI, that is a word, folks, critiquey, it was done with a sense of pragmatism, where it's like, yeah, I do believe that AI is going to change our future and stuff, but just given how things have worked out, just like we see with other technologies, hype can be a little bit of a virus, right? Definitely. It can oversell things. But he did say that, whilst there is the overselling, and people usually stop at the argument there. It's like, oh, NFTs are this, bad. People are scamming this and they're overhyping, bad. But it's like, read beneath
we've seen it with
the headline.
We've seen it with when search first came out. We've seen it when blockchain came out. We've now seen it again with AI. There's a myriad of times. This happens every single way when people jump onto things too early.
There's a silver lining, though, with all this kind of stuff. People will jump on early, and this is human nature. But we think that that's all bad. It's not actually all bad. Yes, we should watch out and protect ourselves against the scams and be realistic about the claims that people are having out there. But because of all the hype, it brings people into the space that weren't necessarily there. It brings the pragmatic people in there. Not all, but it brings a lot of people that will take this space forward that would not have looked at the space otherwise. We, for example, would not have been in the blockchain space had it not had the hype that it had, because we were brought in to work on a project that got funding because of the hype that it had. So, and now we're building stuff that is pragmatic. So the attention that this kind of stuff gets can be a bit of a silver lining. And they also talked about the concept of companies in the space that they go, well, why did Google invest in AI? And it's like, well, they've got two options: either not invest or do invest. If they don't invest, there's only one path from that. If they do invest, then it is either it's successful or it's not successful. So if they do invest and it's successful, great. If they do invest and it's not successful, they can try because they've got the money to, and they should be trying to pursue that and push rather than just resting on their laurels with search. Now, if they don't invest, they watch all their other competitors go out there and they will make something of it. The guarantee is that AI will be a part of our future, right? Given what it can do. So they're forced to. They have no choice but to invest. So people always wonder oh, why is Apple doing this or what? They kind of have to, because when you look at the options, it's like game theory. The best strategy is to actually invest and do something, however big or small that is. So he talks about that, which I find fascinating, because a lot of people just look at outcomes and go, okay, well, that was bad. You've got to look at, or maybe not even the outcomes, they're just judging things early. And I think we have to put ourselves in the shoes of the customer, big, small, the person that's presenting something. What are they getting out of it? And maybe that's part of the education that you guys are going to do, and I'll be a guest lecturer for. Guest lecturer, Mark.
Is that what we're going to get to?
You get homework. Everyone gets homework. You can use AI.
Love it.
Yeah. But I'll just raise the bar in terms of the homework. If anyone is a teacher out there, if you're doing homework and you're letting students use AI, it can't just be the old homework that we were doing, like, hey, create an essay on this. No, because AI is the way it is. Create me an interactive presentation. Figure it out. Use AI to do that.
Yep.
Actually learn how to code. It's a history lesson, yeah, but you can actually make it interactive. Interesting.
I think it's a good thing that it has put, it's flipped education, thrown it onto its head by introducing this accessible tools to, pretty much fast track how people and students learn. Some negative, obviously massive, in a massive negative way, but then there are positives that come out of it as well. But it's proof that the system needs to change and it has to adapt, unfortunately.
Like we had with
which it should have done centuries ago.
Exactly. Yeah, they should have been using AI when they were using Abacus.
Yeah.
What were they doing? They weren't thinking. You've got some news.
There's a lot of news. That's a couple of big things, surprisingly, this week. Firstly, I think the one we were discussing recently is Meta. Big old Meta. We hinted at a Meta
discussion.
We had a Meta discussion, and then along came a business that decided, I'm going to launch an AI tool into the market. Who knew? Who knew this would happen? But yeah, so Meta, good old Facebook, Mr. Zuckerberg, has launched the open source, their own, well, not launched, but they've announced their own open source LLM to challenge all the other competition that's out there. So Llama, with a ridiculous name. It's a Llama 3.1/405B, which I think is the current state. I don't know if that's just
the B is for billion, and it is.
Yeah. But yeah, open source, super powerful, reasonably quick. Obviously probably not as good as the GPTs and Claudes, who have had, quite a foothold in the market for a while. But, I think given the backing that a business like Meta has, it's not going to be very long before they probably catch up in that space. But interestingly, regardless of the tool itself, it's what Zuckerberg has said regarding
Zuckerberg?
Mr. Zucky. Mr. Zuck, and that he's intentionally wanting this to go full open source, with the I guess hinting to what OpenAI was originally going to be, but being a tool for the people in the market rather than a tool for ourselves to be a cash hungry business, which they obviously are, which I thought was very surprising.
It's an interesting sentence, like it's going to be more open source than OpenAI.
Yeah.
That's closed Meta is bringing out an open source model to rival OpenAI's closed source. It's like, sorry, did you just hallucinate right there?
Am I on drugs right now?
Are you can you feel the left side of your body? Are you having a heart attack, Mark? But I find it fascinating and stuff, and I've got a few takes on it. And they've had Llama out there, older versions. This is an upgrade one, and they were and
Average.
are, not
Average.
were.
Average at best.
But they're open source, you
Yes,
know. And
yes.
yes, there is there are French companies that are also doing open source stuff. Mistral is one of those, and they've also come up with a newer model as well, which people are going through and assessing. And speaking of assessing, people, you should definitely check out, this will be in the links, Artificial Analysis. It's a group that's come out of Australia that's getting a lot of press more recently because they do analysis of these tools as they come out. Guys like Andrew Ng and even Lex Friedman tweeted about it. So how great to get someone that we know from the space here in Australia, from Sydney, you know, doing their thing there with analysis. But going back to the open source thing, he wants it to become the standard for industry. And I can see, you know, I think they're going to do some versions of models. Like, imagine a model that is trained on consultants for startups, and then another model trained for legal, another model. The biggest thing, when I look at the spectrum of hallucinations, when you just have a very general model and you're asking it questions, you'll get random answers sometimes. That's the hallucinations. When you have RAG, which sits on top, where you're loading documents, and it's that, you know, general model plus your documents, and you're even pointing to which documents, and even better when it's an expert pointing to documents, along the spectrum, less hallucinations. The ultimate in terms of low level of hallucinations is when you train the model, you fine tune it. So them having these models that are now more capable, and we're seeing models even being able to run on smaller machines, like we don't. Now, this is a question for NVIDIA, right? Like, do we need bigger and bigger machines if we can now run these smaller? But that's another episode. But the open source thing, I think, is fascinating because even without AI, open source has always been a debate in the software industry. You can, you know, potentially develop faster with context. Like, I think it's contextual. You can develop faster in some cases, but sometimes you need closed source to actually do the thing that you need to do. So it's an interesting kind of battle that's ahead, but we're here for it. We're loving the fact that, you know, it's not just one side and everything we have to go close. Like, and then, you know, a few months later you get this. This is an exciting day.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, and then I guess adding to that, you did touch on Mistral, who have just done a bit of a press release around their latest Nemo model. 12B, which is pretty exciting. You know, our standard, I think Gemma and Llama were actually referenced in their usual context windows. They have about 8,000 tokens at once.
Yeah.
This is generating 128,000, which is...
You need it at that level.
Massive. Absolutely massive.
There's million token ones out there, and we'll even get like to much more, but like 128 seems to be like the standard. People complained about Llama not being that high before, so even that was open source.
Yep.
So now it's like 128.
Who's hitting the millions?
I forget, maybe Anthropic, but there are others out there that are definitely in the millions and stuff. Right. But, you know, the interesting thing as well, I think, is that when you're not the incumbent, so open source being the lead there, and then, you know, Google with its Gemini model, when it gets to like Meta looking at this, you can see potentially why they would go open source, because what better way to combat the paid for versions than if you were to go, hey, here's our model, you should come to us, and look, we're making it free, right? It's an interesting play that I think, one that I think they can afford, and one that I think they only do now. If it was Meta was chasing the others, I mean, sorry, they are, but if they were not as big as, you know, a massive company, do I think that they would go open source? I don't think so. You know, they maybe want to try to make some money.
I don't know, but you look at the French company that recently displayed. Is that, what are they called?
Qtai? No.
Yeah, Qtai? Yeah, Qtai. We talked about it in our last episode. We showed a bit of a video on it. And I mean, if you think about that, they're open source. They're a zero company, like coming from nothing. Yeah, it's a thing that businesses do. I think it's all about, you know, the laurels, their culture. What do they want to be as a business? Yeah. I think you're probably right. You know, Mr. Zuck is a little bit more money hungry, so it'd be, in his early days, probably would have made it.
That's why he's behind a paywall, redoing his image and stuff like that. I think
could be
great,
maybe that's it. Maybe that's
it. Looks more human now, which is great, rather than where
but it's exciting.
He was from.
It's exciting.
Massively.
A lot of like new releases with other tools that are that are existing in the market and talking about big companies. And we kind of hinted at Figma before. I mean, they've been talking about it for a long time. And they've already got tools in the market like FigJam, which do have AI integration of some really powerful stuff that allows you to Whether it's grouping contextual information within the dashboards, or creating images on the fly, all that type of stuff. Like there's a lot of interesting stuff that helps you facilitate workshops and things. But Figma has been a little bit behind on the release of AI intentionally to try and catch things up. And so they officially launched, and it's rolling out slowly to people who are paid users within the platform. And I've been excited for this, but at the same time, there's been a bit of controversy around it. So
yeah, tell me more.
So obviously, two big things that you can do. The two biggest things that you can do is obviously text to image generation, which you can then prototype something, and then prototype to code, to front end code, which is really cool. They're like the two big things. It's done the front end code thing for a while, but AI has given that a bit of a bolster in that space for it. But the reason it's a bit of controversy is because where is it getting all of its information on how that text to image should come from? Like what is it pulling from?
Well, clearly from everyone's history of using
Figma, exactly right. And so what Figma hasn't done is communicated that to its users and has hidden the fact that there is a setting deep within your within your account and your soul that you need to turn off in order to say, don't share my details. And people haven't known about this.
Turn off trauma. Okay.
Yeah. Turn off trauma. Therefore, your data is hidden from. But that hasn't been the case. And so now they've been able to roll this AI, and it is pulling insights into, which like for me, I'm like, it doesn't bother me, but I can imagine those who sit much more on that with high level creative, individual creativity, where that
their uniqueness is now out there.
They're exactly right.
That is crazy. Oh man, it's so hard. For example, you're using their app, right?
Exactly.
It's their app. It's a setting I know you can argue it wasn't as clear, but in another way, it's there. It's clear as day in another way, right? Yep. It could be argued that if you didn't read the T's and C's, then, but now it would be a problem for Figma, I see, if they clearly state and highlight that they would not do that sort of thing.
They definitely would not have done that.
Exactly.
But like their lawyers would have slammed them down if they had something like that written in it. But they definitely haven't made it obvious.
And I feel bad for like folks, like I have some creative friends, right, that whatever they're doing, images, writing, this, that, and it's not just creators that are getting affected, even other like coders and stuff that, they think that they're under threat. I don't think they are, but for certain things, we're just going to have to like lift. If everyone can now do what a professional person using Figma could do before, to a varying level of success as the AI improves, then the ones that are really good, they're going to have to change how they do things. The people that were really good at abacus usage, when everyone could use abacuses, we just have to move on. Go invent the calculator. And it's hard.
It is very hard.
I don't want to. It's not being mean or anything, but like we even have to think about what do we do next, given that it's just so easy now for people to do things with data. It's even easier for people to do things with some of the strategy consulting that you might be doing. So I think we just have to find ways, because there's always going to need to be humans, but your profession is just going to have to like lift up, just like, we're all trying.
And it's interesting to say that.
And we can't stop it, right? Like people go, well, why don't you just stop? You're just contributing to it. Because someone else is going to do it.
Exactly.
Right? And if we don't do it and we don't educate you, it's going to be worse.
And that's the education factor is going to be a big play. And it's probably going to be like that for many years. But we're touching on the same sort of topic there around creativity. Interestingly, an article just came out from Science Daily. And it was around a study that was done focusing on creativity, particularly here around creative writing, so books and stories, etc. So they had 300 applications of stories mixed between people who were utilizing AI to write their story and those who didn't.
Yep.
And fascinatingly, the people who utilized AI in some form to write their stories ended up with better, well-written, more creative content to share. Now, when I say they used AI, they didn't plug the stuff in and just like punch out AI and then copy paste it. It was it was used as a tool to enhance their ideas, to come up with creative ideas or concepts, to then reiterate something that they may have written. Okay. So, and that was, and those stories ended up performing better than those who just wrote raw out of their minds. These were, so they did this they had 600 people who were judging the 300 odd stories.
Yeah.
And the people with AI, they ended up having the better results on a majority.
That is fascinating. And I just wanted to, shameless plug here, but here's the actual article, folks. I've copied and pasted it in. And let's just give me a summary of the key points. Let's just validate Chris.
Oh, God.
Let's just see if Chris actually...
Did I read the article? Because I didn't put this through.
Did Chris talk about enhanced creativity? Did he talk about the evaluation? Okay, so they had 600 people.
Yeah, 600 judged.
Interesting
I
there.
did not make that up.
26.6% were better written and 15.2% were less boring. I would love to judge the less boring part.
Just to see what would happen. Like,
yeah,
what was
exactly.
they doing?
Collective novelty. That is interesting. When individuals creativity increased, the study found a 10.7% increase in similarity between AI-assisted stories, suggesting a loss of collective novelty. Oh, interesting. I guess it's a bit of a balance. Like you gain in some parts, but it takes back on others. And sorry for
so less
hijacking.
Uniqueness. That is the big fear with AI, right? Is that it does remove a bit uniqueness if it's trying to find an average between everything that it does. But I mean, that comes back to then how you prompt it, because you can prompt it to be a bit more creative. You
can prompt it to be a bit more creative and in your style. So let's say this is how the person's written. Something that we're doing often is saying, give me the style, and I'm writing this in. We've got the article. Here, folks, and I'm saying, give me the style and tone of this article and provide quote examples, so that it's actually giving us those examples. And what it'll do is it'll say, well, this one's academic and informative, and here's some example quotes from what it said. It's the use of technical terms and statistics. It's neutral and objective. So if you wanted to write in that style again, AI can actually help you achieve your style,
But what you're still looking at here is it's not extending beyond that novelty.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
You can make AI creative with the right prompts. But again, you need to know how to prompt it properly in order to do that.
Exactly.
But at the same time, there is still limitation, because it is pulling, again, an average of what everyone thinks within this topic realm that
it's that bell curve.
It's the bell curve.
So if you want to tweak it, you need to know how the AI works to be able to, or you need to, even if you know how it works, sometimes we just didn't have the tools available to us, but that's coming more and more available. It's really exciting. I go to bed, eat, sleep, drink.
Repeat.
AI.
On a similar note, there was another study that was completed, and this one instead was targeting university students. So it was a psychology degree. Okay. And they were allowed, there was 30% of them were allowed to use AI to answer to complete their exam, and the other 70% were left to not complete their exam, to do it normally, by hand. And lo and behold, the purpose of this study was to identify the uniqueness of AI in that sense. So could it be clearly identified that AI was supporting these students? And it turned out that majority of them, bar three of them were identified as AI. The other 27% of the exams that were done by AI were not identified as AI and scored the highest results. So they performed better. It was obvious that it wasn't AI, and everyone else didn't do it as well as the tools that were used for AI. So that is talking to how much better, and a lot of them were using ChatGPT, how much, like 4.0, how much better that has become at splitting itself out from sounding too much like an AI, which is scary in itself, and talks to the education piece that you mentioned before, the need to change how you do exam work, because you can just pretty much plug it in and not get caught, which is bad. Yeah, I would say
it is. And I guess there's more context there.
As a direct.
So there's a difference between like just plugging something, and we don't know the specifications of the tests that they've done. Look, I don't know until I'll read the article, but whether they say it or not, I would hazard a guess that they've probably done some extra stuff. So you might get the AI to get you the results, but then you, the student, are tweaking it, and you're chopping and changing things and adding your own flavor to it. Now, if they're just going direct, one for one, spit out the answer, put it in, and leave it. then that is interesting because even
they didn't actually
AI,
they didn't talk to that surprisingly in the
that's what I find with a lot of these studies, that they don't get into the details. Sometimes they do though, but even then it's not enough detail. Like I saw something where it was financial analysis using AI, feeding it in annual reports and getting it to pick the direction that the share price is going to go. And they're like, oh, look, it picked the best direction like each time. But there's so much nuance to it. It's like, what's the time frame you were looking at? How did you actually do the test? Was it information that if you were to do it historically at that time, that you would have had that information to plug into an AI to predict that movement? Because we do this thing called backtesting. So there's a lot of nuance to the experiments where if you introduce certain things and don't take into account biases, it is a problem. And we get a lot of talks out there and push. And because from universities, I would expect that it would be robust. But I've even seen academic type papers that are put out just because we've got this limited understanding of AI. Like it's someone from not the AI space, you know, whatever other industry it is, putting finance, healthcare, whatever, and using AI and coming up with results. And it's like, yeah, that's not quite right because that's not how AI works, right? Or that's not how you do that kind of test. So there's always a nuance to this, but it is interesting that they tried that. Did the students know? I didn't get to that question. Did the students know that the others were using, like, you know, if you're in the 70%?
So the way I'm looking at this, so the study was done by PLOS One, and it was, let me get the numbers right because I didn't get it right the first time. It was 33 out of the 100 were done using OpenAI.
Yeah.
My understanding is that they were 100% AI. So they were fake exams essentially associated that these people submitted.
Oh, wow.
And there were only 2, were detected as being written by AI, and they scored an average of 84%.
Pretty good.
For the rest of them. And so it wasn't like hey, I'm going to use it to support me. It was like AI output, copy paste kind of on the majority.
So humans, you know, we school, we go through uni, we get hit by the playground basketball in the face that is life.
Yeah, this is an example of that.
Why am I so specific there? You throw a ball.
Play a lot of basketball.
You throw a tennis ball to someone at school and you accidentally hit a teacher in the head and get in trouble for it. Not that, you know, very specific example, not that I know. Anyway, I really didn't mean it. I'm sorry, miss. But, you know, what I'm saying is that we go through life and we learn these experiences. We go through testing and then we go get a job and blah, blah, blah. Now, imagine an AI going through that. So it's just done an exam, 84%.
Yeah,
great. Here you go, Tommy. These are the options for you for your career and stuff. And now that AI goes in, and because it's got memory, it's learning and stuff like that.
It's only going to get better.
You know, there was a complaint that, oh my gosh, we need so much more power. We humans, the body, the electrical system in the body is a powerhouse. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, whatever it is, right? My American folks will remember that. But like humans, how we learn is very different. You know, there was comparison. You need so much training for the AI versus like a toddler. And in a way, it's a smart toddler, but it learns in a different way to humans. True. And it was a complaint that we're going to need much more power to get these things to be cleverer than they are now. But if what we're seeing now holds true, where, you know, the models can get smaller, they can be even running on like a crappy laptop like I've got, 16 gig, it's not GPU, but we'll be able to run some stuff on here or on your phones. I think that argument will even out, and it opens up so many possibilities.
The thing to also understand is that most of the power doesn't necessarily come from its learning. The power comes from its usage. So the more people you have sending queries, sending information, utilizing it, the more power it's going to need to handle that huge overload of access and questions and triggering and tokening and all that type of stuff. That's what consumes the power. It's the same thing on blockchain. Like the power consumption comes from the transfer of people, you know, sending money to and from things and validating it and all the little checks and balances. Yeah. It's those little systems that do the checks and balances. That's what consumes all the power, takes the, you know, so the more we use it, the more power it's going to need. So yeah, you can run a model on your computer, but if you had 50 people then signing into a computer to run that model, it's going to fall apart.
No, that's very true. It's a good point around the usage. It's like if a blockchain platform falls in a forest and no one's there to hear it, or tweet it, or tweet about it. Did it happen?
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't make a sound. I don't know, folks. We could ask that. That's another thing, actually. I want to bring up just while we're on this like weird kind of topic, but throwing up on the screen here, I'm talking about AI mashups and interesting things. Like I used to do things where you can use the AI in the semantic reasoning where it can take abstract concepts. It's very good at that, actually. Like anomaly detection is one that you get from this. Getting synthetic users where you go, here's my user types, and you give it all the personas, and then it makes up personas for those users and the behavior. It's really great. But even the mashups where you give it 2 weak concepts, like explain blockchain as if it was like the hip hop industry, and it will go out and do it. And if that's never happened before on the internet, you can check it. It will actually give you some reasonable results. It'll make stuff up, which is really weird. But that's usually with words, right?
Yeah.
What I find interesting is there's one where it was doing it with, and you see, we're seeing robots on the screen here, folks. And it was like training these AI robots, like not real robots, but like stick figure type things with, well, not quite stick figures. They've been given bodies, but essentially like software looking like robots. Teaching them how to fight, but from the perspective of dancing. And we're just going to play something here where you see what effectively is breakdance fighting. And they are running. I don't think they're really hitting each other, Chris. I don't know if gold or white is winning, but they're certainly really moving really fast. It's a lot of like convulsive moves.
I feel like I'm watching like a D-grade Hollywood fight scene, you know.
I would pay to watch this.
There's like some guys like going for the punch and it's missed him by 20 miles.
He punches himself because he's gone that hard. It's very Wile E. Coyote,
he's
folks.
falling over.
So these AIs, they're like got ragdoll physics and stuff, and they're basically just like they've been trained to try to hit each other, but not doing so well. Okay, there's a bit of a push there, and it's just continuous like training. I think they get up to, let's see how well the training goes further. Gold has done a few hits and stuff, but it's just really interesting how active they are. Boxing matches of the future could be a really interesting futuristic sport. MMA, UFC, eat your heart out.
I think we just found the title of the episode. AI can fight dance.
AI will fight you with dance. Fight dancing, that's it. It's not Zoolander breakdance fighting, but yeah, it's there. So I thought that was interesting, man.
Although pretty close to Zoolander.
Yeah, it is. It is. What else have you got in the news, Chris?
Bring it up, Jamie. Yeah, so there are a couple of other interesting things that are happening in the market. I'll race through these. I won't linger on this too much, but
good.
I'm really, we talk a lot about LLMs and stuff, and that we do with our work and our daily lives, but there's been a lot of progress in how AI can, and it has been for a long time, but I think these recent advancements have really pushed and accelerated, I think a better word, how they can be applied to health, for example. So University of Florida making huge leaps in terms of predictions for things like Parkinson's disease, which is really, really interesting. And, it's going to be super valuable for globally in the health industry.
Absolutely.
UK, they're now rolling out across hospitals, testing out AI to detect early stages of prostate cancer as well, and how they progress through and how they are able, going through procedures to reduce the effects of prostate cancer and hopefully get it removed for those who have it.
Will it be the robot doctor that says, Mr. Monfort, just
Mr.
relax?
Monfort, yeah. On goes the glove. No, not to that extent. More around the detection.
Thank God.
And scans and stuff like that. So that's a lot of leaps and bounds due to stuff that has been kicked off in the market.
Amazing.
From the likes of OpenAI, etc. That's really accelerated use of AI in great industries. On the flip side, we have some things in the negative space where we've got AI sports betting, which is a bit fearful. Pretty much like reducing, I guess. Well, I mean, it's probably a benefit for those who are gambling. Don't gamble, but it's making betting easier and reducing the risk by increasing it. I think almost, what did I see here? By like 10% at the moment, accuracy on results.
Okay.
And it's been tested since like 2018, where they took a whole bunch of results from things like Twitter and or X, I should say.
Yep.
Of people who were submitting what their bets were and finding out the accuracies and understanding how they got to those results. And now, so in recent times, they're able to take those insights that they've gathered over the years and then make predictions on results based on the data for things like horse racing or football. And they've been
I just had an idea for an app.
Yeah,
anyway.
right. use AI to predict your gambling habits.
Is it much different to, we've had, the data's always been there. Yeah, we didn't have generative AI. We've always had AI. There's machine learning and probably people were doing that, but it's a higher barrier of entry.
Yeah.
So not many people were. The thing about AI now with generative AI is you can use language to do the coding and instruct the Python models and SQL and whatever. But is that, I do question whether it's a bad thing, really. Maybe it introduces more people to it, but I reckon like everything else we see in other industries, there'll be some sort of look by the regulatory bodies if you're doing that sort of thing.
And that is happening. Like even in the States, they've put a lot of, there's a big lens over the top of the likes of OpenAI and other AI models now. Not necessarily because of things like this, but just because of how AI is impacting the industry and trying to ensure that they do have the right legislations around risk and awareness. So psych's going to be the next big thing to
could be
cleanse the market of this.
Oh, I wouldn't say necessarily cleanse. I was going to say we can add to it. No, but like, if the industry body, like, what do you do with something like, it's different for different industries, but what do you do with something like that where it's like horse racing and other kind of like betting? Do you now make the sports harder? Sorry, guys, because AI, we're going to have to raise the rim to 12 feet, not 10 feet. Or because of AI.
We need to introduce more anomalies or more variants in the...
Exactly. The horse has to like put its nose on a cone and then spin around 10 times before it like races. Like, what are we going to do, right? Like, I think...
the only thing I could think they could do is by limiting access to the data. So that's literally the only thing they can do, because of the pattern recognition of LLMs along with and partnering that with mathematics, like it will eventually it'll increase that accuracy of the bet that you'll make. It won't never be 100% because it could be even down to the temperature of the air that particular day, and could change a result of something, and it's not going to know that to the 100th percentile. Probably a bad example.
Maybe they do something where it's like, right now we've got our normal, let's take horse racing. You've got you bet on the horse, and you've got your trifectas and your whatever's the one where you get the 2, and then quinellas, which is, I think, I don't know, man, is that 4? I'm not a gambler, but in any case, the different types of bets that you can do, I could maybe see something where because a bell curve where the majority sit
back to the bell curve
that don't make money. It's the edges that that make the proper money and stuff like that. If the bell curve moves towards more people because they're using tools like this to make money on these bets, maybe because if we don't change the sport, and I'm not arguing that we should, even though it'd be really funny. The only thing that we could change is the possibilities of what types of bets you could have. Because I think even with the data, even if they have a moratorium that you can't get new data, which is kind of silly, because what if someone's not using AI? They're just using stuff that was already allowed, but had a higher barrier of entry. I think it's really hard there, but maybe what they could do is just change the types of bets that you get a lot, not change it in banning it, but there's a lower payout, right? That's what they control. Like I used to work in financial markets, and you have these big screens, multiple screens for traders. When you go to places like Sportsbet and some of these other places I've consulted to in my data analytics days, they've got massive screens and not massive screens, but multiple screens. And guess what? They're watching not the markets and charts. They're watching races and sports and all these things, and they're setting the odds and stuff like that. It's fascinating. I just see that maybe now that everyone can win in that, it's a bit more guaranteed. Well, it's not a 2-to-1 thing anymore. It's a 1.1-to-1 thing, So that could be a way to do it. It'll be fascinating though.
I mean, you do have a shift in, I mean, this has been happening pre-AI where there's just be other sports that don't have the data. There's some really scary stuff where now... Scary sports where there were like these underground bets on like child sports. So like your local basketball games or your local football games in the schools.
Damn, that reminds me, you owe me a bit of money. So.
Thought we shouldn't talk about this.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just joking. But that's what people are flocking to that. And like, hang on, why am I seeing on these global statistics for whatever, like a school game or something like that, or like a representative like youth kind of game?
But if you think about it on a neurological level or psychological level, I'm not using the right words because I am not a psychologist or a health specialist at all.
That's a new product from psychological.
Yeah, exactly, psychological. So why do people have these gambling problems? It's an addiction, right? They're chasing that high. And I guess if AI comes in, reduces that, that accuracy of failure, they don't get the high anymore because it's almost an assured win. So then they're going to end up either not betting as much on this one and they'll just shift to other things like schools.
Yeah, I hated like winning all the time on the lotto. Like I liked it when I was like losing a little bit in like that uncertain. No, but no, I see what you mean. Like, I mean, it is something that we're going to have to take into account. And I think we take in, going back to the lessons, we will, as an industry, whether it's with the regulators, government, it's the industry bodies and the people that are part of it, we will be able to take account of it a lot better if we understand the limitations and the truth behind it, because it's not going to happen because we're limited voices, but we need more people talking like this. But I think we're going to have misrepresentations, as we see all the time.
Exactly.
Anyway, you know, it's a fun fight. And we're just going to keep on doing it. What else you got?
I think like I'm conscious of time.
I'm never conscious of time.
Never conscious of time. I think it's a good wrap up there if you're. But I think next time what we want to try and get into is more around productivity tips in terms of application. You've done some great examples of that. I'm going to dive into some more specifics within work, life, for the tools that you can utilize.
Okay. Like mental health stuff as well?
Mental health, physical health, and work.
Yeah. Burnout should not be... No, I'm just joking.
There are some great tools that around that as well. Yeah, burnout, so I can talk about this next time as well.
Absolutely.
But yes, anything you want to say on the closeout before?
Word of advice: be good to your parents and hug everyone that you know, your loved ones and stuff, because we're in a digital kind of future. Who knows when the next hug is going to be? I'm just joking.
Or hug your AI just in case it takes over. And
exactly. Be nice to your AI folks. But no, I look forward to some interesting events coming up. We're going to be doing something that is at the intersection of a few things. The public not playground, but the not marketplace, but the public square. Let's call it that. The public square for discourse. So the Oz DeFi Association is partnering with a group that is going to bring some interesting international speakers here to Australia that will be talking about this. It's all about democracy. It's all about AI and blockchain and how these things come together. And so there'll be more news on that coming out next week. But yeah, definitely check that out. It'll be here in Sydney, and it is pretty unprecedented getting these folks across to our shores. So yeah, we'll talk more about that. So watch the space.
Sounds exciting. Can't wait. We'll put some links in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay. On that note, hug your parents.
Bye.
See you guys.
Have a beautiful time.
Circuit board buzzing, worldwide, tech trends blazing, get you to fire.